Hello guys, this is Saket from Team Let's Learn. Here with us is a Rakshith who's got recently selected into Anglo Eastern. So many congratulations Rakshith.
Thank you very much.
So in the today's interview or some mock, we are going to know his GME sponsorship tracking experience. That how he cleared his exam and all, how was he feeling while giving interviews, everything. So let's start. So first of all, Rakshit, tell me how you cleared your written test and what materials you referred.
So the written test basically any aptitude question is from India Bex, and also textbook you can refer RS Kumi. But and also I got questions related to psychometric chart, Mollier charts. I got questions related to mechanics of materials also, and most of the mechanical concepts from Dreamer package also came. So what I'd like to tell is paper keeps on changing, so I don't have any idea what will come for you. So it's always you should always be up to date. What is the like present pattern of the exam? Because I have seen that many people are getting new questions, and previous sources are not working for them. So I'd like to guys to be updated about it.
Okay, then how will you exactly guide our upcoming aspirants on for that CBT?
Okay,
Means
for
what should they
CBT,
prepare?
I would like to say be sure about your mechanical concepts. Like my aptitude was not very good, so I focused more on my mechanical and English. Some English questions are also there. So my English is very good. So I was able to answer all of them, and mechanical concept also was good. Also, the good thing was that I got very little aptitude questions, which I'm truly grateful for.
Okay. Okay, also tell about psychometric test, how we deal with us that.
Okay, you cannot prepare for psychometric test. It's completely based on your personality. They judge by your answer if you're fit for the C or not. So I would recommend you guys not to pick the middle option. Either try picking up totally agree or totally disagree, and also try to remember your answers because what happens is first at the first question they might give an question and they will repeat at 100 question also. So what they want is that you should be not forgetting the answer because they will give the same question as the 100 question also, and if you take the different option for the first and 100 question, then they'll totally fail you and see that you are totally lying about your personality. That should not happen. You should remember your answers and try to make sure that when the same question come you should answer the same options also.
Okay. Okay, Rakshit, I have some sort of questions that you were asked into the interviews. So I will go continue with the non-technical part first.
Okay.
So, what did you told about your introduction about family and why merchant navy?
Okay,
So,
first of
can you
all,
just elaborate?
yeah, about my introduction. First of all, I told my name, my hometown. Then I wanted to make him sure that all I'm passing all the eligibility criteria. So I told when I'm about to pass fourth engineering, when I will pass my PUC, when I pass my 10th, I told about aggregate percentage for all of them so that he can make sure that I'm eligible. And also
Okay,
about my family, I told how many members are there in my family, what all my family members are doing, and where they are working, everything. And about my why I wanted to join Merchant Navy, I told that first of all is my passion for big machineries. Then I told it is a contract-based job, which means gives me more flexibility when I wanted to do the job. Also, that I will get financial stability at a very young age, and that this Merchant Navy field offers a great growth also in it. I can reach till chief engineer, and after reaching chief engineer, there is opportunity offshore also.
okay. Then after that, one question is a moment when where I worked very hard and still failed, and how do you overcome that?
Okay, basically what he wanted to assess me on this is if I can handle failure or not. Scenario where I worked very hard. Basically, I told about one of my project and a competition where I went to, but at the end moment when I have to show my project, some components fried up and I was not able to demonstrate my project. I worked for it around one and a half months and still was not able to show the true capabilities of my project, which I felt very bad about and consider it a failure. He asked me some questions regarding it, like how you overcame it. I just told that as time passed, I forgot about it. So he was not did not tell any cross questions or did not ask much about it. He was satisfied with it.
Okay, what did you told about your friend circle and all?
Again, no much cross question. I just told about my friend circles, how many friends I have, what and all we do on weekends or in class time also, and no further
Okay,
cross questions. Simple questions.
okay. How do you prepare for the interview?
The main thing is that I told about one textbook that is Diesel Engines by A.J. Wharton for IC engines, and then I told that for other topics, I told that I referred one of my senior's notes, which is Gyan. He is working right now in Anglo. I That was a late lie, but I told him that, and he was okay with it.
Okay. About your final year project, what you did?
So what I told, no, like I'm still in my like just reached my eighth sem of engineering, so I have still not completed my project. I told him about the basic objective of the project. Then I told sir, there is still a lot of work pending because I still have 2 months of my engineering remaining. And he said, okay, if you have it remaining, no need to tell much. And I just told him about the objectives, like skimming through the project, what we are trying to do, and he was okay with it.
Okay. Okay, Rakshit, let's move to technical part
Yeah, okay.
that was asked to you. So first question comes to you was uh, parts of a ship.
Yeah, parts of the ship. I was very amazed to get this question because most of the interviewers does not ask this question. Basically, my interview was part of college placement, and the interview that I got was respected Chief Engineer Anuj Bagla, sir. And I'm not seen him take interviews for many people. I think he is reserved for college placement. So I sure all the question that is asked today is asked by Anuj Bagla, sir. And my interview was 2 hour 15 minutes long. So the first question was how parts of a ship. So what I told was that first of all I told about the bow which is at the front of the ship, then stern at the back of the ship. Then I told him about the hull. Then I told him about the deck. Then I told about engine room. Then I told about the superstructure that is above the deck where living quarters are there. Also navigation is present. So this much I told to him and he accepted it.
Okay, the next question is what is the name called left and right name of the ship?
Yeah, for this, I could only remember the port side. The starboard side, I didn't remember. I told him, sir, it is something board, and another side is port. I told him. Then he told me which side is the port. I told him it is the left side, and he told, okay, it's proper port. The other side, I was not able to remember. Like
Okay,
I have read about it, but it was very before. I didn't think that he will ask this question. So I told him where the port side is. The other side I couldn't remember properly, and he accepted it.
okay. Okay, then third question was how does ship floats?
So, how does ship float? I told him about Archimedes' principle. Like whenever a body is fully or partially immersed in a fluid, it will experience an upward buoyant force, which is equal to the weight that it displaces. And he told me why does a small object made of metal it will sink, but why does a big ship like this float? I told him that there are many hollow cavities that is present in the ship. There will be air pockets because of also much higher surface area is in contact with the water also. Because of it, ship will sink. And he was satisfied with the answer.
Okay, moving to the next question. What all components in engine room?
So when I told about the parts of the ship, he heard me say the engine room. So he asked me what and all components do you know that is in the engine room. So I
Engine.
told him about first of all two-stroke marine diesel engine. I told him about four-stroke generators that is present in the engine. I told him that cooling water system will be there, which is connected with the freshwater generator. I told him about the lubrication system. I told him about the compressor. This much I told.
Okay, then why bigger volume for first stage compressor?
I told him that we use multi-stage compressor. He put a cross question on which do you think has bigger volume, the first stage or second stage compressor? I told him, sir, the first stage compressor has the bigger volume. He asked me why. I told that the packing is much less, there is very less packing. So there will be more volume of air which you need to compress. That's why the first stage compressor bore diameter will be much higher. So I told him this answer and he was okay with it.
Okay. Then working of bursting disc.
Yeah, like when he asked about compressor again, he put a cross question about bursting disk. I told him that it is placed in intercooler and aftercooler, and if there is any leakage of air into the water system or cooling system, the there will be a sudden exposure of around 30 bar air into like 2 bar water supply, and the casing of the intercooler and aftercooler will not be able to sustain such high pressure. So it is usually made up of cast iron, the intercooler and aftercooler body. So when it is suddenly exposed to this high pressure, there is a chance of it completely bursting, and because this cast iron are like sharpnels when at very high pressure, there is a chance that many people will get affected who is nearby. So we are using a bursting disc so that it can burst and relieve all the excess pressure. So he was satisfied with the answer.
Okay. Then next question was names of diesel engine based on connection between piston and crankshaft.
So basically, I think the answer that he wanted and what I told is that crosshead type engine and the trunk type engine. And from there, he started asking me about IC engine.
Yes. The very next question is difference between trunk type engine and crosshead type engine.
So basically, here the thing he wanted to know is the presence of the piston rod in crosshead type engine and no, non-presence of piston rod in trunk type engine. So I basically told, sir, in crosshead type engine, we have a piston rod which is connected with the crosshead bearing. Then he asked, okay, what about the trunk type engine? I told him, no, sir, we do not use a piston rod. We directly connect the connecting rod to the piston with the help of gudgeon pin. And then again, he started asking some cross questions further.
Okay. The next fuel bunkering process.
So he wanted me to know how the fuel is reaching the engine. So he told me, sir, he asked me like how the fuel is reaching, what and all process it has to undergo before reaching the engine. I told him because of all the fuel bunkering process. I started to explain, but he told, no, you just tell me the parts that is there. So I told him it comes from a tank, then it will go through a filter and then a pump. Then it goes to a settling tank where sediments will be there. Then it goes to a HFO purifier. Again, it will be purified. Then it goes to a settling tank, which will be at a slightly higher temperature. Then it goes to a air heater, further to a pump, and then to the engine at very high pressure. He was satisfied with the answer.
Okay. He also asked you that how we control fuel flow through an fuel injector.
So I didn't know the answer for it. I told throttle valve or fuel valve. He was not satisfied with the answer, so I'd recommend you guys to do research against it.
Okay. The next question was he also asked you about whole timing diagrams and start explaining from fuel injection
Okay,
point.
I'll show you the diagram for it, what I drew. I hope it's visible. This is the
Yes, it is.
diagram that I drew for it. So what he wanted me is start from the fuel injection part that is here, and he wanted to explain everything according to the strokes. Like when I am telling about fuel injection start, we know right when fuel injection is start, the piston is at compressive state, which means the inlet and exhaust valve will be closed. So he wanted me to tell for every stroke the position of the inlet and exhaust valve, also what is happening in the engine. So you have to explain it in a very detailed manner. Also he was very satisfied with the answer that I gave. At the first time I didn't understand what he meant, but the second time he told me that you have to explain according to the stroke, not just tell where what is opening according to degrees. You have to explain according to the stroke, and after that I
Okay.
told him that and he was satisfied with it.
Okay. Moving to the next question was How crankshaft and piston connected in crosshead and trunk type engine.
Like again, he wanted me to elaborate on that. So I told him the piston and crankshaft in two-stroke marine diesel is connected. First of all, there will be a piston rod, then a crosshead bearing, and then the connecting rod in two-stroke engine. Whereas in trunk type engine, I told that there will be no piston rod. First, we'll have gudgeon pin in the piston, then we have a connecting rod, then crank pin, and the crankshaft. So he was satisfied with the answer.
Okay. Then after working of camshaft.
For the camshaft working, I told that it derives its power from the crankshaft itself. So basically, I told him that it enables us to provide a proper timing to the inlet and exhaust valve. Also helps in opening of inlet and exhaust valve. I told him that to know the proper position of piston for the proper timing, this piston and camshaft is synchronized. So basically, piston is connected to the crankshaft, right? So piston movement we can analyze by the crankshaft movement, and this crankshaft is further connected with the camshaft so that we can synchronize both the movements of the piston and the camshaft. And also I told them that it contains cam lobe, which helps us to push the push rod, and further the rocker arm, which enables us to open the inlet and exhaust valve. He was satisfied with the answer.
Okay. Then after working of rocker arm.
Yeah, working of rocker arm, right after when I mentioned rocker arm, he asked me that. I told him that rocker arm gets its power from the camshaft. It helps us to open the inlet and exhaust valve. But closing, we are using wall springs. I told him that. And basically, what happens is because of the cam lobe profile that a camshaft has, it will do its vertical motion, and cam follower is connected to this, and cam follower is further connected to the push rod. And because of this vertical motion, there will be an upward motion. So this push rod will be further connected to the rocker arm, because and this rocker arm is connected to a point. It will pivot it. Pivoting motion is its motion. So when this push rod is pushed upward, there will be a pivoting motion of the rocker arm, because of which inlet and exhaust valve will open with proper timing. And I later told that the valve will be closed with the help of wall springs.
Okay. Then after he asked you about parts of camshaft
Yeah,
withdrawing.
this is one of the other question which I was not able to answer properly. He told me to draw the profile also. You can see it here. I drew like that. I told him about camshaft and cam lobe. He was not satisfied with the answer. He wanted me to explain more parts. At that time, I didn't know. So I told, sir, only know these two parts, that is camshaft and cam lobe. Further, I have no idea about all the other parts. He said, okay, and moved on to the next question.
Okay. Then after why flywheel is used.
So flywheel, I told him that it helps us to store the mechanical energy from the power stroke, and expel this power to all the other known power stroke like intake, compression, and exhaust. It also enables us to absorb noise, no, reduce the noise, and also reduce any unbalanced force that is present. And he was satisfied with the answer.
Okay. Then after what is the use of governor.
So governor, he asked me what is a governor. I explained him about the centrifugal type and the electronic type. In centrifugal, I told him that we have Porter governor and Hartner governor. In Hartner governor, the sleeve will move against the spring, whereas in Portner governor, it will move against gravity. In Portner, and both the working is similarly same. I told the rotation of governor comes from the crankshaft itself. Both will be connected with the help of bevel gears, and when the speed is excessive, the sleeve will go upside, and it will be further connected through linkage to the fuel valve or throttle valve, and it will restrict some amount of oil that is going to engine, so speed will decrease. Now if the speed is too low, which means the sleeve will start coming down, and this mechanical linkage to the fuel oil will try opening it a bit so that more amount of oil goes and the constant speed is achieved. So basically governor is used to maintain a constant speed across varying loads. Then I told him that, sir, this centrifugal governor, we used to use it in the old times. Now we are using electronic governor, which senses the rotation of crankshaft and further actuates the fuel valve that is there. And he was satisfied with the answer for both.
Okay. Then after the question was tell the parts of typical diesel engine.
So he wanted parts for the typical diesel engine that we are using. I told him about cylinder block. I told him about head gasket. I told him about cylinder head also. Okay, coming in motion, in flow, I'll tell cylinder head, head gasket, cylinder block, piston, piston rings, connecting gudgeon pin, connecting rod, crank pin, crankshaft, flywheel, timing chain or timing gear according to the distance between them, then camshaft, cam lobe, cam follower, push rod, rocker arm, valve springs, valve, and fuel injector. This is what I told him, and he seemed satisfied about it.
Okay. Then after, high volumetric efficiency is less in two-stroke engines.
So he wanted me to tell like why volumetric efficiency is less than two-stroke engine. So I told somewhere in my interview that it is very less efficient. That is two-stroke engine is a very less efficient. So for this answer, I told him that incomplete scavenging happens in two-stroke engine. So our charge that we are admitting into the engine, some of it will be going through the exhaust, which means we are losing some amount of charge. Whereas in two-stroke engine, the scavenging process is very efficient, and most of the charges does not expel through the exhaust gas, because of which we have higher volumetric efficiency. He was satisfied with the answer.
Okay. Then after, why different lubricating oils are used in that
Yeah, I
two-stroke
think
marine diesel engine.
somewhere when I was telling the difference between two-stroke engine and four-stroke engine, or crosshead type engine or trunk type engine, I mentioned that there is a stuffing box. So he remembered that and started cross-questioning me now, like why two lubricating oils are used. I told him like that first of all, stuffing box we use to maintain this different lubricating oil system, and I also told him that there will be more acid formation because we are burning HFO fuel, which will produce more amount of sulfuric acid. So as to neutralize this, we are using higher TBN oil for the cylinder side and lower TBN oil for the crankcase side. Also, that in crankcase side we are using around 13,000 liters of oil, and it is very expensive to use higher TBN oil for both because crankcase oil is in such high amount. We don't want to waste money. Also that the cylinder oil has to be changed frequently, whereas crankcase oil can be used for a longer period of time. So when I told this, he was satisfied about it.
Okay. Then next he asked about working of turbocharger and disadvantages about it and how to overcome it. And
Okay.
also to draw the turbocharger with thermodynamic symbols, such as if a normal person is looking at it, they should understand with exhaust inlet and exhaust outlet and also
Gyan, at this part, I think he has stopped. So let me see when he'll restart. His video has paused for me. Please edit this part
okay,
out.
okay.
Okay, I think he is back. Gyan, I think you can start editing from there. Okay, can you please repeat the question?
Yes, working of turbocharger and disadvantages about it and how to overcome it. Also, draw the turbocharger with thermodynamically symbols that
Okay,
he asked.
okay. So what I basically answered for this was that turbocharger we use to increase the power and efficiency without increasing the size of the engine. I also told that first of all, from the exhaust manifold, we'll get uh, exhaust gases which will have pressure energy. Then with the use of nozzle, we'll convert this pressure energy to kinetic energy. And this high kinetic energy exhaust gas will hit the turbine, because of which now this turbine and the compressor are connected with a single shaft. So when this turbine starts rotating, the compressor will also start rotating, which means it will take the exhaust air from the no in air from the engine room and start compressing it to a higher pressure. And then I told him that if there is an increase in pressure, there will be a high temperature also. And I told him that if there is a high temperature, there is very low density of air which we want to avoid, and also that there is a chance of knocking. But then he cross-questioned me like, why do you think knocking will happen? Because in diesel engines, knocking happens after the compression now. So why do you think high air temperature uh, matters here for knocking? Then I told sir, I don't know, I might have read it somewhere, so I cannot elaborate for that knocking part. But I can say that it has a low density and that it is further air cooled or water cooled so that we can increase the density of air and charge it into the engine with sufficient scavenge pressure so that scavenging also can happen properly, proper combustion also can happen properly. And he accepted the answer for that. And further, he asked me disadvantages of it. I told him that when the engine is just starting up, there is a chance that we are not getting enough exhaust pressure so that this turbine speed will not be at the correct RPM. So we'll not get that much boost of pressure into the engine. That means sufficient scavenge pressure we are not getting. So that combustion will not happen properly or scavenging will also not happen properly. So I told him some remedies for it. That is, we can either use a auxiliary motor also. And I told him that some cars or sports car use a smaller turbocharger to accommodate for this not spinning of turbocharger. And for the geometrical symbol, I drew like this for him. I think he wanted curved lines for here. All this arrow should be curved and coming from the should be in proper direction also. He told me he is not satisfied with the direction of arrows, but the diagrams is proper. So this is what I drew for him. And he was partially satisfied with the drawing, not fully satisfied with it. And then he moved on to the next question.
Okay. Then after he asked why lighter flywheel is used in two-stroke.
Yeah, this was another one of his question. I told him that in two-stroke or crosshead type engine, we are getting frequent torque because for every one revolution of crankshaft, we are getting one power stroke. Whereas in four-stroke engine, for every two revolution of crankshaft, we are getting one power stroke. So the amount of time it takes between every power stroke is much lesser in two-stroke engine than compared to four-stroke engine. So a lighter flywheel is enough because it doesn't have to store that much mechanical energy. Whereas in four-stroke engine, because there is much more time between each power stroke, it needs to absorb more mechanical energy so that it can keep spinning. So this is the answer I told him, and he was satisfied with it.
Okay. Then the next question he asked to you about if crankshaft has 1000 RPM, tell the RPM of camshaft for two-stroke and four-stroke engine.
So basically, what I told for this answer is that first I told him that for every one revolution of crankshaft, we get one revolution of camshaft for two-stroke engine. Whereas for every two revolution of crankshaft, we get one revolution of camshaft in four-stroke engine. So then he asked me, okay, you tell me RPM, that no need to elaborate. I told him that in for two-stroke engine, for 1000 RPM of crankshaft, we'll get 1000 RPM of camshaft. Whereas for a four-stroke engine, I told for 1000 RPM of crankshaft, you will get 500 RPMs of camshaft. And he agreed to it and accepted the answer.
Okay. Then he asked about how ship stops.
So, how ship starts, right? I think he
Stop
asked
stops.
stops. So he asked me two questions, that is how ship runs and how ship stops. So first he asked me how ship starts, how it is able to flow. So I told him that this two-stroke marine diesel engine is the one which provides the propulsion for it. The crankshaft is further connected with help of gears to the propeller. The propeller is like an axial flow device which will push the water to the other side. Basically, with the help of uh, what happens is there is Newton third's law of motion, which states that every action has equal and opposite reaction. Because of which, it will the ship will be pushed forward. Then I told him that how ship stops is basically by because this two-stroke marine diesel engine is bidirectional engine, because of which by running the propeller in opposite direction we'll be able to stop the engine. But then he asked, okay, that is one method. There is another method. Can you guess what other method is there to stop the engine movement? I told him about rudder, that how it might help in slowing down the engine. I don't think about the rudder part he was totally satisfied, but with the propeller part he was satisfied with my answer. I think still the answer is lacking in some manner.
Okay. Then after how ship starts.
Yeah, I told that,
Sorry,
right?
in runs. How ship runs.
Okay, I told the
That
answer
only.
basically that.
Okay. Okay. Then after moving to next, working and diagram of refrigerator.
So the diagram that I showed him was the one that is this diagram is what I showed him.
Okay.
He he asked me like, how did you draw this diagram so fast? He thought that I cheated or might have written that already, and I'm showing him that diagram. So he made me draw another one, a rough one, and explain me in this diagram. Also made
Okay.
me draw the TS diagram. So basically, all the concept that was explained in Gyan's video regarding refrigeration, the same way I explained, and he accepted the answer. I think further cross questions you are about to ask.
Okay. Then after the question was how will dryer differentiate between refrigerant and moisture?
So I didn't know the correct answer to this question. I used a big English word and tell that, sir, it is a desiccate material. It is super dry. It will only absorb moisture. It will not absorb refrigerant. And he didn't completely understand what I told. So he just moved on to the next question.
Okay. Then working of sensing bulb and how does it make sure no moisture is present?
So basically, while my explanation of VCRS cycle, I told him that sensing bulb is used to make sure that no moisture is present after the evaporator. So then I explained him the proper working, that sensing bulb is connected to the thermostatic expansion valve with the help of capillary tube, and that this bulb helps us to maintain a certain degree of superheat so that we can completely make sure that no moisture is present after the evaporator. Because if water is no not water, liquid, and if any liquid refrigerant is present and it goes inside the compressor, there might be a chance of mechanical damage. So I told him that basically this sensing bulb and thermostatic expansion valve is connected with a capillary tube, which also has the refrigerant inside it. And whenever there is a very low temperature in the sensing bulb, this thermostatic expansion valve will constrict its area to allow less flow of refrigerant. And if there is very high temperature, this sensing bulb will send a message to the thermostatic expansion valve to open up its area a little bit so that more amount of uh, refrigerant can flow. He was satisfied with the answer.
Okay. Then after the question was low pressure cutout working.
So yeah, like in my first diagram, I put out LP cutout and LP cutout. No, LP cutout and HP cutout in my diagram. Basically, here I'll show. I I put it here, LP cutout and HP cutout. When saw my diagram, he asked me why are you using LP cutout. I told him that when we are reaching a set pressure, the pressure from the refrigerant will be very low, so that we can save energy. We are cutting off the compressor if there is a less amount of refrigerant pressure into the compressor, that is on the suction side. So also he accepted this answer.
Okay. Then after he asked differentiate between AC and refrigerator.
So what happened is I remembered one of the question that Oberoi sir had, that AC is always told in tons of refrigeration, and refrigerator is told in liters. So I told that as a difference here. I told him, sir, AC is usually measured in tons of refrigeration, and that refrigerator we are using in liters. So he told me to elaborate further, like why do you think that is like that? So I told him, sir, refrigerator liter matters most because we are actually using it for storage, and storage of components inside it matters a lot, whereas in AC it is not mattering much. Also, I told him that AC does not have a defined area to cool. Also, that the manufacturer cannot generalize volume for each of the home, because in each home different rooms are there, different volumes of room are there. Whereas in a refrigerator, there is a defined area also. Then I told him that whatever food we are putting inside the fridge will not be constantly emitting heat. It will be cooled down only. Whereas in AC, there are so many variables to consider when we are deciding on tons of refrigeration, like how many times you are closing and opening the door, how many members are living, is there direct sunlight. Also, it doesn't matter like the tons of refrigeration that we are buying. It does not only matter on the volume of the room. It matters on many variables also. But that problem is not there in refrigerator. It can the calculation. There has to be a certain calculation done to know what ton of refrigeration we have to use for a room. So it has many variables to consider. And he also asked me, oh, tons of refrigeration. Do you know what 2 tons of refrigeration is? I told him that it is the amount of heat we take from 2 ton of water at 0 degrees Celsius to convert it to completely 2 ton of ice at 0 degrees Celsius in 24 hours. He was satisfied with it.
Okay. The next question was which boiler is used in ship?
So I told him about water tube boiler and fire tube boiler. And he just asked me types.
Okay. Then after why heating fuel oil and why we use bad quality of fuel oil.
Yeah, he sometimes remembers some of the statement I have told before. I don't think he has a set of questions with him. He just asks question what is coming to his mind. So he just remember that I told somewhere regarding HFO fuel that we are using HFO fuel in ship, and suddenly he is like,
Okay.
why do you think we are heating up the oil? So I told him that, sir, the uh, oil that we are using or the fuel that we are using is third grade side, and that we are using it so that we can save some cost. And because it's such bad quality of oil, it has very high kinematic viscosity, around 380 cst at 50 degrees Celsius. We cannot use this high kinematic viscosity oil in the ship, so we are using an oil heater to further heat it to a lesser CST, around 13 CST, and then we are supplying it to the engine so that it can properly do the combustion. So this higher kinematic viscosity we cannot directly put it to the engine because it might clog many of the system. It might clog the filters also. So there is a chance for that, and he was satisfied.
Okay. Okay. Then after various boiler mountings names.
So boiler mounting, I told many. We mean first of all like feed check valve. Then I told about gauge glass. I told him about blow down valve, scum valve, pressure gauge, air vent cock. Then at the last, I told about fusible plug and low water level indicator. I told him like that fusible plug we can use or we can use low water level indicator. Then he asked me about the working of fusible plug.
Yes. The
Yeah,
very next question is
yeah.
that working of fusible plug, how overheating causes an explosions.
He asked me that, I told him that fusible plug is a plug which we make sure that water level inside the boiler does not fall below a safe limit. So I told him that when there is a very low water level inside the boiler, there is a chance that this fusible plug will come in contact with the steam directly, because of which the metal inside the fusible plug will melt. This fusible plug is mostly placed at the crown of the furnace or crown of the combustion chamber. And when it melts, it will allow a passage of water to go into this combustion chamber and completely stop the combustion process. And then he asked me, why do you think this? Then I told him that it also enables us to stop the overheating of shells and tubes. Then he told me, what do you think will happen if boiler shells are overheating? He asked me like that. I told, sir, there might be a chance of bursting. Then he told me, how do you think there will be bursting? I couldn't think of an answer that time. Then he told me, what do you think will happen if we supply this combustion air to a normal metal pipe? I told him, sir, it will melt. Then he told me, yes, exactly, because it will melt this pressurized air that is inside the boiler, it will suddenly come out. The integrity of boiler shells will be decreased because if it starts melting, then obviously the integrity
Yes.
will be less, no? So again, he was satisfied with the answer, but he gave me a hint for this.
Okay. Then again he asked about types of boiler.
Again, okay. 1 minute. Yeah, types of boiler. I said the same thing. Water type boiler or fire tube boiler.
Okay. Then after types of pumps.
Yeah, pump, I told him about first of all rotodynamic pump and then positive displacement pump. In rotodynamic pump, I told him we have centrifugal type and then we have axial type. Whereas in positive displacement pump, we have rotary type or reciprocating type. In reciprocating, I told him we have diaphragm and piston. In piston, we have single acting or double acting. Whereas in rotary type, we have screw and gear pump. He was satisfied with the answer.
Okay. The next question was explain with drawing working of centrifugal pump.
So he was a little impatient. So whenever I tried to draw a neat diagram, he was like, no need, neat and all. You can just directly draw a rough diagram and show me. So I draw this one very fast. This is the diagram that
Okay.
I showed him.
Okay.
He was satisfied with it. And then with the explanation, I told him first of all about the whole construction, that is suction pipe, volute casing. Then when I said that volute casing has an increasing volume towards the discharge, I think he asked a cross question, which is the next question.
Yes. The next question was how casing design causes pressure in discharge side.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so when I said that there is an increasing volume towards the discharge side, he asked me, why do you think that is? Then I told him that, sir, first of all, the fluid is already present inside the pump because priming is happening in centrifugal pump. And then I told this fluid that is there inside the pump, the impeller will start imparting velocity onto this fluid and discharge it radially towards the discharge side. Since there is an increase in velocity, there will be an increasing kinetic energy. Now, when it coming to the discharge side, there is an increasing volume, right? So increasing area. So I told him according to continuity equation A1 V1 is equal to A2 V2. So since there is an increasing volume, there will be a decrease in velocity. Since there is a decrease in velocity, there will be a decrease in kinetic energy and there will be an increase in pressure energy. He told me why that is like that. I told him that, sir, it is because of Bernoulli's equation. When he heard that term Bernoulli's equation, he was like, okay, okay, I understand now. Your answer is proper.
okay. Then after he asked about NPSH.
Yeah, then he asked me about NPSH. I told him that it is net positive suction head. We are maintaining it so as to avoid cavitation. And I told him many factors depend on NPSH calculation, like absolute pressure head at inlet. Then I told him about frictional losses, vapor pressure, and the head we are keeping it at. I showed him like that the head we are keeping it at. It can be plus or minus. Then yeah, he was satisfied about the answer. Then he heard the word cavitation. No, so I think next question is based on that.
Yes, exactly. What is a cavitation and how will NPSH solve it?
Yeah, so basically when he saw that I told cavitation, then he started asking me about cavitation. I told him that when the pressure inside the pump is decreased below the vapor pressure, there will be a chance that the fluid might boil and vapor bubbles might be formed. And when this vapor bubble reaches the higher pressure region, that is the discharge side, it will burst and cause an impinging action to the impeller and the casing, which might decrease the pump efficiency. So then he also asked me how NPSH solves. I told him that the pressure we are keeping inside the NPSH, that basically the pressure that we are keep working pressure of the pump, we will always keep it above the vapor pressure. That this NPSH calculation makes sure to take a lot of variables in, like the frictional losses, the temperature of water. So by calculating all the variables, we are keeping a sufficient working pressure for the pump. And when we are keeping this working pressure of the pump, it makes sure that none of the vapor bubbles is formed. So further no cavitation will happen. So I told him this remedy and he was satisfied with it.
Okay. Then after he asked about priming.
Yeah, again, when he heard about air and all being present, then he asked me about priming. So I told him, sir, priming is to make sure that no air is present inside the pump. We are filling the suction pipe, the volute casing, and the discharge pipe completely with the fluid that has to be pumped out. With the same fluid, we are priming it. and it is to make sure that any air is not present inside. I told him we can either use an external source or we can fill the pump with the priming port itself.
Okay. Then after he asked about explain with drawing working of gear pump.
Yeah, gear pump drawing, right? So again, he was in a bit of hurry. He told me to draw it very fast. So this is the drawing that I
Okay.
showed him. And the working is basically what Gyan explains in this video, that because there is in, uh, gear is coming out of the mesh, there is an increase in volume, so decrease in pressure. So there will be a negative pressure because of which fluid will come in through the suction line. Then this gear will capture the fluid and displace it positively towards the discharge side through the clearance of the casing. Then at the discharge side, it comes into the mesh, because of which there will be a decrease in volume, hence an increase in pressure. So that's how discharge pressure is created.
Okay. Then after why relief valve only in gear pump, not
Uh,
in centrifugal
so
pump?
basically, what he saw now, he saw my board diagrams of
Yes, sir.
centrifugal and gear pump till now. So he only saw relief valve in gear pump. Then he asked, "You drew a relief valve in the gear pump, right? Why do you think we only use relief valve in gear pump but not centrifugal pump?" I told him that working pressure inside the gear pump, there is a chance that it might increase beyond the safe limit, and because it's a possible displacement pump, it will keep on pumping the fluid irrespective of it if the fluid can go anywhere or not. Basically there is no chance of recirculating of fluid, but basically when it comes to the centrifugal pump, it will just keep recirculating and the working pressure will not exceed the pressure safe pressure of the pump. And he was very satisfied with the answer.
Okay. Then after he asked why is it called positive displacement pump?
Yeah, again, like when I told about positive displacement pump and all, he told me why do you think it is called like that? I told him again, like, sir, it always displaces a certain amount of volume, irrespective of any variables. So there is no chance of recirculating. It will just keep on pumping a certain amount of fluid. The flow is always constant in that. And he was satisfied with the answer.
Okay. Then after he asked you tell the pump we use in village for getting water.
So I was confused about this question. I was like, what is he referring? Then I suddenly thought, okay, in villages we use one type of pump. I showed him, sir, we use this pump, no? He was like, what? Tell me the name of the pump. Then I told him, okay, sir, I remember it's called as the hand pump. Then he asked me which type of pump is that hand pump. Then I told him reciprocating pump. Then he asked me, why do you think we are using reciprocating pump there? Why not centrifugal pump? Because we'll get high flow also, no? Then I told him this was a guess by me. Guess by me. I used my brains and my logic for this. I told him that, sir, there is no chance of priming for centrifugal pump. So it is very hard to prime when it's under the ground. And reciprocating pump does not require any priming, so it is much easier that way. Then I think he asked me another cross question, which is the next one. Please unmute yourself.
Why reciprocating pump? Okay. That is why reciprocating pump only? Why not centrifugal pump?
Yeah,
Did you answer that?
yeah, same thing. Yeah.
Okay. Then after he asked pump used in your home.
So when he heard that, right, that pump priming is not done and we should not use it underground, I think he put forward this cross question to analyze if I know everything about the motor that I am using at home. I told him that we are using submerged centrifugal pump in our home, and he was very
Okay.
satisfied with the answer that I know that what pump I am using at home is submerged type, and that's why priming is not required for it because it's completely submerged. No, so he was
Okay.
satisfied with the answer. That much only I told. I told him what pump we are using, and when he heard that term submerged, he was satisfied with it.
Okay. Then then also he asked about types of NDT.
Yeah,
NDT
NDT,
methods.
I told him that first we can use manual inspection, either with the help of eye or the feel of touch. We can know if any surface defect or any kind of defect that is present inside a specimen or not. Then I told him about ultrasonic testing, then magnetic particle testing, and radiographic testing. Like I
Okay, bro. You are in.
explained two types, that is ultrasonic testing and magnetic particle, no, dye penetrant testing. I explained him both. That is a simple explanation. Like dye penetrant, I told about all the three sprays that we're using: cleaner, developer, and the dye penetrant spray that we're using. I explained him the entire process also. Then in ultrasonic testing, I told him about parts like transducer, then receiver and display unit. But then when I explained everything, he asked me another cross question.
Yes. The next question was explain magnetic particle testing and ultrasonic testing and red dye penetrant testing.
This three I explained properly, and then he
Okay.
asked a cross
Then he
question.
asked for a bearing with defects, should I use ultrasonic or dye penetrant testing?
So he asked me questions, so I told him about, after thinking a bit, that, sir, it might be a dye penetrant testing that we're using. He told me, oh, no, 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 it's not dye penetrant testing that you're using. I got confused a bit. So suddenly I asked him, sir, do you think that the defect is surface defect, or if the defect is present inside the bearing? Then he told me it is present inside the bearing. Then I told him, oh, sir, if it is present inside the bearing, then it might be ultrasonic testing, not dye penetrant, because dye penetrant we are using for surface defects. And when he heard that answer, he was satisfied.
Okay. Then after he asked about types of workshop tools used.
Yeah, workshop tools, I told mostly all of them. Like, first of all, I told about wise, that is holding tools. I told first about workbench. Then I told about holding tools like hand wise, table wise. Then I told him about measuring tools like steel ruler or normal steel ruler. Then vernier caliper, vernier height gauge. I told him about micrometer. I told him about protractor. Then I told him about what do you say? Um, then I told him about power tools like lathe, grinding machine, cutting machine. Then suddenly he started asking me like type of spanners. I think which is the next question, right?
Yes.
Uh,
Yes, yes, yes.
I was
That's the
not
next.
familiar with the type of spanners that he asked. I told him, sir, I don't know the type of spanners that we use. Then he asked me the next question, because when I was telling this workshop tool, I purposefully added this term called as feeler gauge, so that if
Okay.
he basically if he has a question on why we are using it, I can tell it.
Okay. But then he asked about tap and die. What is tap and die?
Tap and die, I told him again because I included. Okay, first I'll tell about feeler gauge, what answer I gave him. I told him that
Okay.
feeler gauge we are using to make sure that whatever is at certain height. So I told him we are using it to check the tappet clearance in an engine. So what we are using it, we are tightening this tappet clearance. We'll make sure that it is with the correct clearance. And when you're feeling a slight tug, that when it's very near to the feeler gauge height, then we'll know that proper tappet clearance is happening. So I purposefully added so that he can add me cross question towards it, because I can explain it properly. Then he asked about tap and die. So I told
Tap
him,
and
sir, tap and die is used to make threads. And if somebody is very impatient and the thread is gone and we have to make new threads, we have to use this. So I told him die is to make the male portion of the screw, and tap is to make the female portion of the screw thread. And he was satisfied with the answer.
okay. Then after he asked about single phase induction motor.
Yeah, right. Single phase induction motor. So he asked me about single phase induction motor at the last. He just remembered that, oh, I should ask this guy about electronics also. He was like about to finish, about to stop, and he was like, oh, I forgot to ask about electronic questions to you. Then he told me, he asked me, explain the working of single phase induction motor. I told him, sir, the basic construction is that we are using electrical energy to make mechanical energy. The main construction involves a stator and rotor. We are supplying a single phase AC current into the stator, which will produce a magnetic field. This magnetic field will cut the rotor, which will produce an EMF in it. It is according to Faraday's law of induction, which states that whenever there is a relative motion between a closed circuit and a magnetic field, a EMF will be introduced. So then I told that this EMF that is produced in the rotor will in itself also produce a magnetic field, and because of this repelling magnetic field, a torque is produced in the rotor. And he was satisfied with the answer.
Okay. The last question he asked to you was ship generator working.
Yeah, like when I told him about single phase, then he wanted to know how to generate electricity also. So he told me about, can you explain how ship generator works? He told me like that, ship generator. He added the term ship to it. So I had some good knowledge about it. So I told him about, sir, we use a four-stroke diesel engine to power the ship generator, and we are connecting the rotor to this crankshaft or a prime mover, and the stator is stationary part. To this rotor, we are also applying a DC exciter, which will make sure that this rotor has a magnetic field. Now, because this rotor is continuously moving and with the magnetic field, this magnetic field will cut the stator and produce an EMF in it according to Faraday's law of induction. The EMF that we are producing is in AC format. If we have to store it in a battery, we can use a rectifier, or we can use it as AC itself if we have to use it instantly. And some amount of this AC current we are further rectifying into DC so that we can supply it to the DC exciter again. And he was satisfied with my answer. And finally, at the end of the interview, he was like, "Oh, I have asked you so many questions. Why don't you ask me some of questions also?" So at this time, my idea was to impress him so that I'll I should impress him with some of the questions that I ask, because that is also might play a big role in it. So I asked him first is, sir, you are a chief engineer. Will you recommend this field to me? I have sailed for so many years. Do you think you'll recommend this field to me? He told me that it is a tough job. It requires a very strong mind to be surviving in this field. Then he told me that if you are coming into merchant navy, you should always aim for chief engineer, nothing less. If you are uh, if you're coming to merchant navy, be a chief engineer. Otherwise, you will not be able to take the complete profit of merchant navy. He also told that if you are not a chief engineer, it is hard to find a shore job, and told me that second or third engineers don't get very good shore job and with a very good package which will able to sustain your family. He told me that if you're a chief engineer, there is much more higher opportunities than a second or third engineer. And second question I asked him about was like, yeah, again the same thing. First, he told me about his entire story, how we progressed from fourth engineer to third engineer, then to second engineer, then chief engineer. He told me about his story. Then he told me about the career, and then I asked him about port leaves. Like, sir, do we get sufficient port leaves? Can you comment on the port leaves? He told me that younger generation goes out to vacation a lot in the port leaves, but you will not get so much time also. And some juniors also have to stay back for watch keeping of the ship also. He told me like that. Then I funnily asked him about the food quality in Anglo. So he also started smiling a bit and told me, yeah, food quality is very important for Indians, as you know, for Indians, good food is always important. He told me that in Anglo-Western, the food quality is very good. And he also told me a story that he had some Vietnamese chef who cooked very good Indian food. And he told me that even being Vietnamese, he cooked very good Indian food. Then I asked him again to impress him the safety culture in ships. He told me that safety depends on the crew. As a company, best they can do is give proper safety training and proper safety gears for the ship crews, and then it is up to them. If they have to maintain a good safety, it is up to them. He told me like that, laughingly. Then I
Okay.
told him, sir, what might be the procedure after the interview? He told me the entire procedure. Like after interview, you might have medicals. Then you have to do submit your all the documents also, your degree certificate, your 10th certificate, everything. So that is basic. Then at the last, I again wanted to impress him more. So I told, sir, as a rookie, do you think I should join a oil tanker or a bulk carrier? Because as we know, it is hard to shift between each other. As if you are trained in bulk carrier, it's hard to shift to oil tanker. He told me as a fourth engineer or third engineer, there is not much factors affecting it. But when you are moving to second engineer, you cannot shift between each other. He told me that oil tanker ship requires an extra amount of safety training which you have to undergo before joining it. So he told me that oil tanker is in a bit higher level. There is a certain respect for oil tanker crews, and they undergo much higher training also for safety. So this many things I asked, and I think it impressed him a bit. But at the end, there is a little story. So when he asked me about what the books I referred, I told him Diesel Engines by A.J. Wharton. So at the end, after the interview, he took a book from his bag and told me, "Yeah, that is the same book I also refer." At the end of the interview, that this is the Diesel Engines by A.J. Wharton. I've been using it for more than 10 years. I think that sealed the deal for me. That he is referring a textbook and the same name I told in interview also. I think that is one of
Yes,
the other factors why he asked me so many IC engine concepts. So my interview
yes,
was 2 or 15 minutes. No, for I think around 1 hour he asked me IC engines only.
yes, really,
Yeah,
because it was so lengthy, so
yeah,
lengthy, so lengthy interview.
so lengthy interview.
It doesn't happen generally
Yeah,
because of AJ Wharton. It happened.
yeah. I mean, another thing is that I have not seen him take interviews for any other normal applicants. I think he is coming only for college placement. So his name is,
Okay,
again, I'll repeat, Anuj Bagla. If you meet him in your placement talk or in your interview CC, you should be warned because he'll ask very difficult question. Also, in his pre-placement talk, I I thought he was kidding at that time. He told me that I'll only recruit people who I seem worthy to be in ship. He told me like that, not to me only, the entire placement, how many peoples were there. So he told
okay,
them entirely like that. I told, okay, he might be showing that he's strict. He might not ask so many questions. But now I realized he was not kidding and that he asked me very tough questions.
okay. Actually, your interview was so lengthy,
Yeah,
and you tackled it very nicely.
yeah, yeah.
Then after, again, what you want to say about our Let's Learn group?
So
Was that helpful to you?
first of all, I like to say that I started my proper preparation from December 1st. That is when I joined Let's Learn group. I would like to say that if Let's Learn was not there, I wouldn't have passed my interview. I owe a lot to Let's Learn group. All the people who are teaching, Raviraj who usually used to take technical discussion, Akshay who took my mock interview, also Mir who took 2 times my mock interview, Gyan also who guided me always with any kind of doubts that I have, and also Raviraj again who I asked tons of doubt and he always answered me how much of a time it might be. And in Let's Learn community, first of all, Ashish Dayanand notes it's very crucial. It helps you. It is like complete summary of the Dreamer package that we are referring. It is very, I think it is a very great weapon for any GME aspirants. That notes, it helps a lot. I've seen many people say that Ashish Dayanand notes are one of the best notes there is. And also all the technical discussion that is happening in the group, which is posted in the uh, YouTube channel also. Come on, let's learn. And there is so many technical discussion happening in there, and many interview experience and mock interviews of past aspirants who are now going into Anglo or many other sponsorship companies. So another one more thing that if you watch this technical discussion, you will get some knowledge about it. So as you participate in this technical discussion, more and more knowledge will be there. So whenever I used to participate in a technical discussion, I always used to tell the answer. So I'm telling you guys, if you're seeing this video, I'm telling you properly that if a technical discussion is happening in Let's Learn group, please participate in it and answer properly. As I have seen, as I have analyzed, people who answer always in the technical discussion tend to pass interview more because they are not shy. I'm telling you, if you are shy, you will not perform very well in an interview. Be confident with your answer. Be always confident because I'm telling you, confidence is the only thing that is free. Because knowledge always you have to practice, but confidence is from your side, right? It is free. You have to build it up. You have to be confident in your answer. And also another tip that I would like to give about interview is always be careful about what you answer. They are very analytical type. Okay, they will see your answer properly, and even if you make a slight mistake, for me this sir always listens to my answer very carefully, and if I make even a slight mistake, he'll directly stop my answer and ask a cross question regarding it. So he is very analytical about my answer. So there is a trick for that. Either, see, there is another thing you can do to impress your interviewer. I told, right, give a bait to the interviewer so that they can catch it. Keep a certain time, like I told about stuffing box. No, no usual people will try to put a stuffing box. But what I made sure that when I put stuffing box in my answer, I can explain it completely. That confidence you should have whenever you are putting a term which you know the interviewer is going to ask you cross questions on, you should be prepared to answer it. I was prepared for crosshead bearing, I was prepared for the stuffing box, I was prepared so that whatever answer I am putting forth, any cross question comes, I'll be able to answer it. You should think about your answer first and then answer. Because as you know, they will ask cross questions if you make any mistakes or any put any unexplained terms in your answer. So you should be very careful what you're telling. See, there is a fine balance. See, if you tell too simple of an answer, they might not be satisfied. If you tell too much complicated answer, they might cross question you. So there is a correct balance that if the cross question comes, you might be able to answer it, and it's not too simple of an answer also.
Okay. Okay, then is that over? Or you
Mm.
want to say something?
Further, obviously, I need to thank all of the excellent community and excellent platform. Also, the Merchant Navy Decoded Dreamer package helped me a lot. So, otherwise, if the Dreamer package is not there, I have to do a lot of preparation. No, I don't know where the materials, I don't know. So basically, it cuts shorts my preparation because I have a platform which makes sure that I have entire thing I need for an interview in one package itself. So I think it is worth the money that we are putting forward for the package. It's very worth. And this Let's Learn community purely working on goodwill, not taking any money from us. I mean, it's not mandatory for them to train us, right? Why do
Yes,
they need to waste so much of their time to take mock interviews for us? It is basically full of goodwill. People who have passed previously is helping future GME aspirants to pass. That is a very good thing that I like about Let's Learn. So I would like to thank
really.
Gyan and Sandy too because they started such a good platform for aspirants.
Yes, we are really thankful to them.
Yeah, and further, because now I passed the interview, I'll also try to make sure that the future aspirants also pass. So this is
Definitely.
how the community works. First of all, they will help you pass. Then after passing,
Yes,
you should help others pass. So that is very
yes,
good thing that I like about this group.
yes. Okay. Rakshit, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you for joining with us. Okay.
okay.